Hey guys, welcome. And today we're going to be looking at part one of the Forgetful Grandma case. So we're going to look at what it means to be a mother, what it means to forgive people, what it means to give people second chances, what it means, like the changing dynamic of the nuclear family, what it means for millennials when you trust the process, when you believe your elders, but there's no safety net there in place for you to do the things that they've been pushing you and pressuring you and to do your whole life. So set the scene. You are Kayla Shock. You get a text on your phone, and it's your salon reminding you that you have an appointment this afternoon. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I have an appointment. I really should go. I haven't really felt like myself lately. I have a new baby, 7 months old. I really need to get my roots done. I haven't done my hair. I haven't colored my hair or really done anything for myself the whole pregnancy. I haven't felt like myself. I have been going to therapy. And my therapist says, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So yes, it's probably important that I actually go to this appointment instead of just saying, let me reschedule it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to text my mom, see if she can watch my kid this afternoon. Text your mom. She's a retired principal, for a school. So she says, yeah, actually, I'm going out to lunch with a couple ladies from church. So I would love to take Uriel with me. So drop her off. See you soon. Now, fast forward, there was an incident. And usually what you'd say here was like, what happens next? Nobody could ever imagine. But in this case, you could imagine it because it had already happened before. The Hardy County sheriffs walked up to Kayla Shock's porch. They had already been there less than 1 year ago, delivering the same news to Kayla Shock, knocking on the door, standing on this porch again. Think about the first responders. Think about the mother. Think about Kayla Shock opening the door. The Hardy County sheriff was there to tell her that her child had passed away. Today we're looking at the case of Tracy Nix, a former retired school principal in Florida who had two of her grandchildren, Uriel and Ezra Shock, pass away while in her care. She has been tried, convicted, and sentenced in the death of one of her grandchildren. Never criminally investigated for the first one because of the laws that exist in Florida. But basically, I want to look at we're going to unpack what it means to be a modern family here, because the reason I was actually compelled to make this video is all the discourse online was basically just vilifying Kayla, the daughter, saying, why, if you let one go in her care, how could you ever feel comfortable dropping the second baby off to be watched by their grandmother? All the comment section were just like, what's the matter with this mom? Something's up with her. I don't know exactly what it is, but something's not right here. And then even like the commentators on like Law TV, just, like the Nancy Graces of the world, instead of giving this person grace, they were vilifying the mother, saying there's something wrong with her. But we want to look at the societal pressures of forgiveness and what it means to be a family and what it means to forgive and the pressure of giving unending chances to people. And you only get one mom. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that before, right? People love drilling that into everyone's head, is you only get one mom, so you better go make amends there, right? So let's look at what it means to be a modern family. Let's look at the manipulation that could have played into the fact of, you ever going to let me see that? I made a mistake. I made a huge mistake. You're ever going to let me see that second kid? So I just wanted to give the flip side of it, that I don't think there's anything inherently wrong or suspicious about you taking your grandchild to be babysat for the afternoon by its grandmother, regardless of what has ever happened in the past. I bet there's a lot of people watching this whose parents have done some crazy things to them growing up, but for the sake of hegemony, right, we are bringing our kid to the Easter basket hunt. These are upper middle class people. You'll see later on here that the grandmother is obsessed with her Lexus. Kayla Shock and her husband own their own business. They live in fancy houses with farm animals, and they go get their hair done professionally, right? So there's no, it's not about a socioeconomic need that I'm lazy and I want to go do whatever, so I need to drop my kids off at grandma's. That's not what this was. Let's put that one to bed right here, because I'm sure a lot of people are in that situation. Obviously, the childcare costs are astronomical. So for the sake of the timeline, let's start at the beginning. Kayla Shock graduates. She moves away. She goes to the big city to go get a college education. Her and her husband, decide, hey, you know what? Let's move back and start a family. They could have lived this highfalutin cappuccino existential coffee shop high-rise life, an unsafe, austere concrete and glass building. But they said, no, I want to be able to provide an idyllic childhood for our future family that we're going to create. So let's move back home. We have a community. We have people that care about us. There's good for us there. And we're doing the right thing by doing this. So they move back, they have a baby. So Kayla and her husband move back, they have a baby, little Ezra Shock, and they are both still working 9-to-5 jobs, but they're also starting their own business. So they're trying to get that off the ground. They're working 9-to-5 jobs. They have a little newborn baby, right? And so that's also part of what's been drilled into us is you got to grind nonstop grinding. You got a 9-to-5. That was probably hard to get, right? You probably had to get a college education and go through rounds and rounds and rounds of interviews to get that. But that's going to be nowhere near enough for what you need to provide for yourself, even coming from an upper middle class family. You need to triple down on that, and you need to start a business as well. And the flip side of that is you need to make sure that you have enough money to provide for this child. Therefore, sans forego probably not be around for a major chunk of the child's formative years of development, because you need to be out grinding, you need to be here and here and here, and that's a whole other topic entirely. So in this time period, Ezra is a little toddler. They call up the grandparents, hey, are you guys able to watch the baby for a little while this afternoon? Sure, no problem. Maybe it was scheduled 50 days in advance, right? We don't know. So the grandma and the grandpa are both home. Then the grandpa comes in and is like, hey, is it cool? Are you guys cool for a minute? Like if I go run up to Walmart, are you and Ezra going to be fine here? And the story goes that she said, yes, of course, doll, go ahead. But if you've ever dealt with this personality type before, I like to imagine the conversation actually went a little something like this. I, of course, am capable of taking care of my grandson. I raised 4 children. You don't think I can do it? Well, you know what? I'd like to see you why don't you, actually, you know what? As a matter of fact, why don't you take him up to Walmart? I'd like to see if you can even get the car seat strapped in. You'd be calling me so fast. I'm capable of taking care of Ezra better than maybe anyone. That's how I imagine that the conversation actually went. That was my dramatic retelling of what I think the events were that played out. But if you know women like that, then you'll know that I really didn't exaggerate one bit of that potential scenario, right? So Tracy Nix is alone with her grandson. She falls asleep on the couch. Could happen to any of us, right? Come to find out she was taking Ambien. Okay, sure, prescription. During the day. I'm sorry, ma'am, day Ambien or taking day Ambien? I don't know. So we don't know if this was a drop-in, like last minute type of thing, or if it was an arranged hang, pre-scheduled. But here's the thing. Either if I know I'm taking care, everyone, you do you, right? I'm not here to judge you guys popping pillies, okay? But if I'm going to be in charge of, if somebody asks me to watch a toddler for the afternoon, I'm either going to A, not take my daytime day Ambien, right? Or I'm going to fake sick. I'm sick. I don't want to get the baby sick. You know what I mean? So just, or even like the third scenario is I'm sick, but your grandpa's here. The grandpa's here. So then that gives me an excuse to just kind of luxuriate in bed and pop these pillies and catch up on my shows. And maybe he can wait on me hand and foot, and I can boss him around and critique that he's doing a shitty job taking care of that baby all day from my bed in between slumbers. But what you don't do is fucking take day Ambien and then say, yeah, baby, come on, yeah, drop him off. So grandma's zooted on Ambien. Ezra's bored out of his mind, wandering around the house. Somehow managed to avoid all the electric outlets. Pill bottles have like the child safety lock on them, so he didn't. But he makes his way out to the garage because that's probably where his big wheels, his little scooter, whatever is. And he reaches his hand up. It's a lever style door, so all he has to do is just reach his hand up, pull the handle down. He's out. He's out in the garage. Next one pulls it out. He's out. Chill on the pillies because guess this isn't just some kid. This isn't just some toddler and somebody's paying you $20 to watch it or whatever. This is your, you know what you guys like to say all the time? Blood's thicker than water. So this is like your legacy. This is your lifeblood. This is your little, you were born with the eggs that produced Ezra when you were born, right? Like that's all you fucking, I've been drilled a lot. I've been drilled a lot. Not just by like my parental frame, but also by society. Blood's thicker than water. So if you're going to take care of a baby poorly, it's more excusable if it's somebody else's than your own flesh and blood grandson, right? I digress. But that's the whole pit. That's the whole thing. That's actually, I'm not digressing. I'm progressing to the overarching umbrella narrative that I'm trying to get you guys to see. Why it's like worse. Somehow there's things out there that's worse than neglectfully letting a child die in your care. Do you guys believe that? How could that be possible? But there's worse things than that. Is that if you touted all this nonsense leading up to it, and then you're just like, oh, how was I supposed to know? If I ask you to watch my kid, whether you're a cheap babysitter that I'm exchanging services and goods for, you feel me? Or you're my mom watching your grandson, I got one rule. You need to look at it. The rule when you're looking at my kid, the rule when you're watching my kid is you need to be looking at it. So Ezra makes it outside. They have a pond on their property. It's just at the end of the driveway from the description. And it's probably part of being at grandma's house that in a certain time during the day, around about animal cracker time, right? Kids thrive on routine, that it's duck time. Let's go see the ducks. It's that round about that time. Grandma's sleeping. She's going to miss it. I'm going to be a big boy. It's so sad. I'm going to be a big boy. You know, it's animal crackers and see the ducks. Let's go. Let's go. Nobody's here. Everyone's asleep. But I'm going to go do it. You know what I mean? So Ezra makes it down to the pond. I'm going to say something kind of critical here, but I'm allowed to be critical of this woman who is defending herself, that she has zero responsibility, zero accountability, and wanted to defend herself against her daughter, the state, to say, oh, I had nothing to do. How was I supposed, what would you want me to do about it? Right? So if you're going to take that stance, I'm going to be extremely critical of you. So if you look at like a lab rat experiment with cocaine and ringing a bell, right? It doesn't take that many times to habitualize a behavior, right? It doesn't take years of doing something for then, oh no, it becomes like a problem or whatever. So a personal parallel here, we're going to talk about my dog, and the train going by. It doesn't take that many times to habitualize a behavior. And I want to make one thing clear. So getting a kid ramped and amped about ducks in a pond is the reason that human beings are put on the earth. Let's get one thing straight, right? There is nothing better than that, is to show a kid ducks in a pond, right? But with great freedom comes responsibility. With seeing that joy on their face comes responsibility from you. So either you take the time, energy, or the resources, or you outsource the resources with money. You get that kid swimming lessons. Little infants can flip over on their back so they can just float and breathe, right? Even with, I see it, it's so cute. They put them in snowsuits so it doesn't matter if they're wearing layers and layers of clothes or big heavy boots or whatever, that they can figure out how to flip themselves over. Infants, right? Florida's got their own justice system down there. The personal parallel here is I got a puppy, but before I got a puppy, I really researched what kind of dog was going to fit with my lifestyle, because I didn't want to be fighting, his ancestors and like get a Borzoi or Afghan or a Sighthound or something like that when I have a fenced yard, but I don't have acres and acres of unfenced yard, right? So I specifically chose my animal companion because I didn't want to unfulfill his needs. I wanted to be able to fulfill his needs, and I didn't want to be fighting nature, right? Every dog's different or something like that, but so the personal parallel here is we live by a train. It's right across the street. And so every time the train would come by, my mom would stop what she's doing, scream for the dog, get the dog to come to her, find the dog, start screaming and shaking it and singing songs and picking it up and looking at the train and going fucking out of her, getting the dog amped and ramped when the train came by. What I needed to happen is I needed the train going by to be exactly like the microwave oven was beeping. Somebody flushed the toilet, because this train comes by twice a day. It didn't take very long for the dog to start foaming at the mouth. Even though she wasn't no longer here anymore, the dog was foaming at the mouth when the train would go by. He broke out the screen door twice a day because the train was going by. Dog example I have of this, because we won't get into the why don't you have any grandkids, is my mom put a pill bottle with who God only knows what kind of pills were in this pill bottle, put it in a sock, tied it up, and then said, "Hey buddy, come get the best toy any dog has ever seen, a sock with a pill bottle in it." She made him a little rattle out of this thing. Then, so obviously that's like the coolest thing any dog has ever experienced in their life. And so then I had to wrestle it away from the dog. It's a good cop, bad cop. And I have to explain to my mom now why I'm such a bitch that he can't play with loose fucking pills in a sock, which the sock alone twists and turns and blocks your GI tract and is going to cost thousands of dollars. Sock alone. If he doesn't even get to he chews through metal. The pill bottle safety top's gonna stop him. So that's an example of like, I'm just trying to do something nice. I made your baby a rattle. And then I have to explain to you why I'm such a cunt that we are not allowed to do that, and that I have to set a boundary. Oh, you didn't respect it. Why did you feed him pot pie, right? Hey, you can't, very calmly. Hey, you can't have that. There's onions in it. You know what I mean? Plus, nobody should be eating that Stouffer's pot pie. But hey, that's not really the issue, is that I wasn't done eating that. I was in the middle of eating it, and then you just picked it up and gave it to the dog. So very calmly, you know what I mean? When she was giving her dogs chocolate, feeding them Reese's Pieces, Reese's peanut butter cups, that's when I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Immediately. But this was very calm. He's a baby. He's a very small little dog. So like a neurotoxin wouldn't have to be a huge amount. Very calmly, like, hey, he can't have this because cited specific reasons, right? But that's not the issue. The issue is, hey, I'm in the middle of eating this pot pie. Why are you taking my food and giving it lethally to the dog? I'm an adult, and I bought this food and I cooked it for myself, and maybe don't fucking touch it, right? That's the behind the scenes. That's some parallels to let you know, like, you can't have all the fun of shaking the dog when the train goes by, right? And then just dump the bullshit on me. I'm sure a lot of like really normal people have had normal experiences with their moms watching their kids. And it's annoying when they give them a bunch of red dye number 5 if you're against that. Or they give them a bunch of sugar. Or, they told them that they could get the Nintendo that they wanted, that you were making them do their homework all month for. You know what I mean? Just anything like that. That's slight annoyances, right? But your kids survived out of it. They're on a sugar high, and they shouldn't have got the game yet, but they survived it. So going back to like the dog breed and like trying to align my lifestyle with like his inherent needs that I'll be able to fulfill, and looking at like, our mom's decision-making process, whether or not to have a child, or is now a good time, or should I wait? They didn't think about it, right? It was just, and some people were forced to be in situations like they had to do that to get out of it, to get out of a bad family situation. Some people were forced to make decisions without thinking, just to like escape their reality, obviously, right? But was my mom's thought process like, I never have any food in the house. I'm hardly ever awake unless I'm on speed that I score from like a random person in a parking lot. And then I stay up for days at a time and I stick needles in the furniture for some reason. And I pick at my face with an X-Acto knife. What would complement my lifestyle? A helpless child. And hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. Like, don't buy a compact car if you really need a truck. Don't get a cat if you have to travel on an airplane for work all the time. Everyone experienced that misalignment, right? And hopefully to a lesser degree than I experienced it. But don't act against your own self-interest. Instead of the thought process should have been like, I have 4 sisters and an extended family, grandma and grandpa on both sides. They weren't allowed over to the house. They weren't allowed in the house. We never saw anyone. Just don't be untrue to yourself. Like, don't torture yourself with your decisions. And not everyone has the ability to make those decisions for themselves. But my parents did, and they acted against their own self-interest. In the same way that like a dog isn't put on this planet with the sole purpose of entertaining you, obviously the same thing goes for children, right? When I was in middle school and high school, just assaulted every PSA, every talk show, every news outlet, every storyline in all the, sitcoms or whatever, do not get pregnant. Do not get pregnant. And the main message that I took away from that, and let me know in the comments if you guys kind of feel this way too, the main point that they actually did drive home to us was, it's not a dolly. It's not a dolly to play dress up with. Right? Am I right? Like, that was like the main thing. And so now, you guys never said like, at a certain point, do it, it's cool, or whatever, wait till you're married, or whatever the thing is. So now millennials, right? And then your narcissistic parents are like, oh, why don't you have a baby? Where's my baby? Where's my baby? And then you do. And then they're like, well, I didn't know you meant that I had to like help protect it. Or like form it into a whole person, because the generational knowledge that I can impart to this, that's what I was excited for. That's why I was saying, where's my baby? Where's my baby? Right? Oh, I didn't know you meant like I had to protect it. So that's why the number one comeback, if your mom ever gives you shit and says like, I don't know who you are anymore, I don't like how you're acting, or something like that, and you can say, well, who raised me then? And that puts it in perspective for him. If you don't like how I'm acting, who'd you let raise me like this then? Because it wasn't you. That's a hot shot. If you're ready to really take it there, use that line. Copyright free. The main messaging that I took out of that do not get teen pregnant was, this is not a dolly. This is not for dress up. This is not something that you just put in cute little dolly outfits. This is a real human being. And you have to provide for it, and you have to teach it things, and you have to be aware. The point is, like, you put all that shit in our cribs. Turns out you're not supposed to put anything in there. We lived and we learned. Some of us didn't have cribs. Some of us didn't have car seats. Some of us just rode, no helmet, as an infant on the back of a bicycle, and then tried to turn me against my own family by saying nobody would have a baby shower for me. Okay. So I decided to ride down the back of my bike. Where the fuck did you have to go? We walked across the street. Where the fuck did you have to go? I didn't go to the doctor. You didn't take me to the pediatrician. We didn't go to the duck park to see ducks. Where the fuck did you have to take me that you needed to? If you have a baby, Get it a car seat. Don't wait on some bitch who's a fucking bitch mother-in-law to get you a car seat. Why don't you just find one on the street? Your car didn't have floorboards in it. Anyway, we're getting deep, and we're not even 1% in there, but basically you dress the crib up. Turns out you weren't even supposed to have anything in the crib. So that's really all you guys did, is you wanted to, it's a little brag book, right? But then the part of the rest of what needs to, all you fucking did was dress us up. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All you fucking did was dress us up. And that was about it. Enough about me. Back to the story. It's 2 p.m. It's duck time. What happens next? We don't know. The next thing that we know, I'm sorry, like what? The next thing that we know is from the 911 call, because this tragedy wasn't investigated further than one incident report. Nix did make a phone call. We know she didn't call 911. Who did she call? So she wakes up. She wakes up in the house. Probably a loud commercial woke her up. She looks around the house a little bit, then immediately gets in her car and drives to the end of the driveway. Crazy fucking choice, but okay. Gets to the pond, sees Ezra, makes a phone call. Who did she call? 911. No. She calls her husband. Now, we don't know if he was like practically on his way back anyway, if he was in the checkout line, if he hadn't even got there. We don't know like where he was at in his trip. No account, because like I said, it's just one incident report. There's no account if the call that she made was happy, sad, frantic, mad. We don't know. She's beside herself, I'm sure. Tells him to get home. He gets home. Let's look at that intro. I'm a former school principal. Do you think that she knows how to perform CPR? Do you think she had to get certified in CPR at any point? Do you think if you were going to do it wrong and really rusty, this would be the time? She doesn't perform somebody performs CPR on the child. Let's take a guess on, is it Tracy Nix? It's her husband. She waits for her husband to come home. We don't know how far away the Walmart is or whatever. I'm not getting the map on the screen or whatever. She waits for her husband to come home and lets him do CPR on the child. I don't know what his job is, right? But he wasn't a school teacher. He probably didn't have to have a CPR certification. You don't need a CPR certification. This is a PSA. If you see a baby on the ground, unresponsive, try it. Try it out. You don't know what you're doing? You know how you breathe? Try it on the kid. So she doesn't perform CPR. She also doesn't call 911. Who does she let call 911? She has the fucking neighbor call 911. We're not going to play the 911 call because it's gut-wrenching to hear this poor neighbor, who probably treats his family nicely, have to walk upon this scene of you fucking babbling over there. No phone in your hand. When the 911 operator asks him, do you know about how long the child has been unresponsive or in the water? And he says, no. Like, you've never heard anyone just like, oh, the bellows of like, no, it doesn't look, it's fucking grim to put him. Is it sad for you? You having a sad day now? You're going to stand over there? Your husband's back, okay? The strength, a man's here. Oh, a fucking man's here now. Yeah, a fucking man's here. I can just kick back. A man's here. He can just take care of it. While you're standing there and he's doing CPR on your grandchild, I don't know, can you fucking call 911? The only 911 call that is sadder than this one is, I think, like the Donda West one, Kanye West's mother, and they're just, these leeches are these people are paid to take care of this woman. They're passing the phone around. Don't ever make me listen to that call again. They're passing the phone around. I mean, like, I'm not going to touch her. ugh, she's probably, ugh. I'm paid to take care of this woman. I'm not gonna. Is she breathing? Is she breathing? Is she breathing? I'm not getting that close. Ew. That's a terrible phone call. But you know what, Tracy? You know what phone calls or 911 calls are worse than even the Donda West one? Are the 6-year-olds, are the 3-year-olds that call and say, Mommy is sleeping. She's been sleeping for 3 days, right? If a 3-year-old, if a 6-year-old can call 911 because their mom is laying deceased next to them, you can fucking make the call because you got a man standing there. You can at least make the call as he's doing CPR. So, Grandma, you're supposed to be watching him. You didn't even call 911. You didn't do CPR. You waited for your husband to get back from Walmart. We're on the first beat and I'm irate. So the police go to Kayla's home. This is the first time. Police go to Kayla's home, stand on the porch. They have to go inform her about this tragedy that happened. Now, Florida, I'm not trying to put this lightly, but it's a rule there that first time's free. There are so many waterways, swamps, ponds, water features. Everyone has a pool. Hey, don't forget the ocean. There's so many places for kids to drown in Florida that they had to make a rule that said, if your child dies, we're not going to investigate it as a criminal investigation. The parents have been through enough. And I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with this, but for the sake of this here, I'm going to say I wholeheartedly agree because the truth, accountability, and we're not going to punish you, right? Because we had the fence, he had his floaties, there was all, you know what I mean? As long as you can say like, hey, I was home. Hey, at least I was fucking home, right? That you can't, because if you can't just come out and say like, hey, there legitimately was an accident here, then do you have to Casey Anthony and just put it in the woods behind my house, right? Ever since they didn't try Casey Anthony, shitty moms everywhere are just like, hey, we can just go to Mexico, leave those kids for 3 months. It's fine. It'll be fine. You want to just collect some COVID checks in Pontiac? Just leave the kids in there. Just eat cereal and don't stand up. Don't have the lights on, kids. So they really should have convicted Casey. But in Florida, they have this rule that the first one, no harm, no foul. You're going to admit that you did it. You're going to admit that's what happened. We're going to go on record and say, right, that this happened. And hopefully they're keeping in their Rolodex somewhere, like the first timers. But in this situation, the law in Florida is, that's a sealed record and it's just an incident report. Well, now that there's incident 2, can we enter that in so the jury can know what the pattern of behavior is? Because as you guys know, the law judges aren't really out there saying what's good and true and just and what's good and right and proper. They're basically going on what's your past. When the cops pull you over, for example, they look at, do you have any prior convictions? When they're on the side of the road there and whether they are going to take you to jail or not, they're looking at, do you have a history of this kind of behavior? And when judges look at a case, they're not looking at the moral just, side that they're going to weigh in on. They're saying, has this precedent have already been set? Has this already happened in the law before? Because I can't go back and say, like, you can't do that a lot of the law is upholding what's already been upheld. It's not saying you're a good person, you're a bad person. It's just saying like, yeah, the law says you can do that already, so I have to just go with it. That was the wrap. That was the bow on there. It's a tragedy. The family mourns, but it was an accident. Move on. So here's the point about Kayla Shock, right? You guys wanted to vilify her and say, why would you ever talk to this woman again? Am I a harsher judge of my own mother than the highest court in the land that said it was an accident? That said, this happens so fucking much that we created a whole statute of law over here that says people are absolved of this, that this is a non-issue, this is a sealed record, and it's simply an accident, and we note it, we seal it, and no matter what happens in the future, we seal it, we don't talk about it anymore. So am I, as the mother, going to come in there and be like, I think she... No. And at this time, the police said, hey, did you notice she was pregnant? Yeah, me too. She's pregnant, and the police record from the first responding officer there said to be investigated as neglect. So the first guy who responded there says, maybe this shouldn't be a first time, it's free one because of the extenuating circumstances, right? The police said, you know what? We don't really want to stress her out. Let's seal it up. Let's be done with this. We don't want to stress her out. And from Kayla's perspective, I just lost everything. I just lost my son. Go straight to therapy. I mean, obviously the crime scene investigators went out there. They looked at fingerprints. They take crime samples, or right? That's what you're thinking, right? They went there and they measured, and they know if something's a crime or not, right? They took crime samples probably. And it must happen so often that this happens that they have a law on the books that says, like, it's okay to do it one time, then I'm going to be a harsher judge. No, I'm going to go to therapy. I cannot imagine the maternal trapezoid that Kayla Shock must have been in. Hormones, pregnant. You're pregnant with a new life. Okay, I'm about to shut my mom out of my life. I just lost my child. Like, I'm pregnant. I have one kid. I'm about to have a kid. I'm going to shut my mom out of my life. She did it on purpose. She held him down. Did she take him down? I mean, what? Your mind would have to kind of go there. She's sleepy. She sure is sleepy. What she went on record and said after her second child passed away was she found solace in the fact that she still had a mom. You lose everything around you, everything else starts to get really shiny. She goes on record to say, like, I was excited. I found solace in the fact that I still got to keep my mom. I lost everything, but I still got to keep my mom. Your brain, in everyday life, if it sees something it doesn't understand, it's going to rearrange the shapes to get a codex. It doesn't like things that it doesn't understand. It's going to make it make sense in your mind. It's going to codex whatever you're saying. I'm like, oh, that's a cat. Yeah. And is that really a cat? I don't know. But your brain's like, yep, it's a cat. Move on to safety. Move on to normalcy. Move on. So am I going to spend my time crucifying my mother and not having a family because I don't have a fucking family anymore? No, I'm going to work on listening to what the legal guys said, listen to what my therapist said, that I'm going to break the chains to free myself of these feelings, and I'm going to forgive her. Because your brain needs to go back to everything being copacetic. As you see, the light's out, and I can't really stomach to talk about this anymore. So please join me for part 2. Take care of each other, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Where's my baby? Where's my baby? Where's my grandchild?